Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Top Cyber Pro podcast. I'm Jim West, founder and CEO of TopCyberPro.com. We have another amazing guest. This guest has just recently came back from a lot of trips and traveling to events, conferences. She is a very, very busy cybersecurity expert and professional. Lisa Landau, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Jim. Very nice to meet you. Thanks for having me. Very happy to be here.
So she is just coming back from winning the Cybersecurity Woman of the Year. So let's just start with that because that's like fresh off the presses. Congratulations! It couldn't I mean, you was in a very highly competitive group of finalists. I mean, I got to say, you could just throw in a dart towards this pool of names, and everyone was so deserving of the award. And of course, you won. How does that feel to be acknowledged for your impact in industry and just to be among all those great names that were in the finalists?
It's amazing. It was very unexpected. Like you said, it was among all these names. I don't want to name some so that others will be left out, but actually people, who are interested, please go and check it out because there are a lot of amazing, very inspiring people in there. I met them for the first time the night before the awards. Those who came out in person to Vegas. I think it's usually very well timed to be as part of Black Hat, so it gives more people the opportunity to participate because a lot of people make the travel there anyway. So it was a great opportunity. We all met for dinner the night before, and you hear some of the people's stories, and it's amazing. And you're like, well, I'm never gonna win. So yeah, so it was very unexpected. It took me by surprise, but obviously I'm very flattered and very, very happy for the win. I do not the statue is in another room, so I'm not going to show you that, but it's a very, very impressive piece of trophy, and it's made of glass, and it has sharp corners. So they also gave me a weapon. So yes, so yes, I also have that self-defense mechanism now. But it's a very nice statue. So I won the Leader of the Year category, which was even more impressive because I think I was nominated for both entrepreneur and the leader, and there were some other categories with people obviously for their well-deserving contributions. But I've been in leadership roles for years, and we'll probably get to that in a while. But it was never. I think it took me many, many years to acknowledge myself as a leader, or even say the word leader without, laughing or mocking or like having negative connotations, because I never saw myself as that. I just did what I felt needed to be done, or a sense of duty or something. And then most of the work is being done very silently, very behind the scenes, and with a lot of hardships, especially when when you're stuck in when positioned in between the people below you and the people above you, and you're trying to do your best and you want to empower people, but there are constraints, and then eventually also daring to do your own thing, which is risky as hell, and takes a liking towards risk, which I normally don't. And gambling is not my thing, but it felt right. Yeah, so I think for the first time, I had to stand there and to suddenly be recognized by others and to kind of have that mirror to your face. It's very flattering, and it's also very empowering because s some people are naturally very confident. I'm very confident when it's subconscious, when kind of the sense of justice says this is right, so you just the inertia drives you. But if you ask me like that, that's not me. So just to kind of have that very, very external validation is what some of us, the more introverted people, need, to in order to say, you know what, I'm on the right path for the other people, and I can empower more people, and I can use that stage, and I should use that stage, to not just for me, but for everybody else who it can help, because I'm being given a platform, and this is a huge opportunity, and I should take advantage of that platform for the greater good of everybody else.
Yes. And again, among titans in industry, and there's a great list of finalists in that, and again, well deserved. So congratulations on that win.
Thank
Let's
you.
get to one of probably the biggest reasons why you was recognized is there's some great work you founded, and you're a CEO and a founder of Threatlight. And so let's talk a little bit of what is the mission and purpose of Threatlight?
So Threatlight is we're about a year and a half old. We always get this confused because startups operate on a very intense life cycle. So every week, every month feels like a lot more. But also because unlike some other startups, when people aspire to be founders or aspire to be CEOs or wake up, come up with an idea about something new and then they start exploring it. We actually, both me and my co-founder, we came from nearly 2 decades each working in this. So this is kind of a long, long journey of building out ourselves and our careers in the corporate world, under vendors, under service companies, whatever it may be, and kind of working with practitioners, working with leadership, working with customers, working with platforms, SaaS, tools, services, wherever it may be. And kind of all of that brought us watching the gaps, watching where the investments go, hearing, understanding the challenges of both sides, understanding what people need and what they're not getting. It kind of led us to that point where we said, we recognize the pains and they're not being filled. And we want to have something that has a security value that actually brings security solutions. Obviously, a business is a business, and if you're not, unless you're a charity, you need to be a profitable business. But this is also part of what I've been doing, transforming business units into something more profitable, but kind of making enterprise level security accessible to everybody. Not
Hmm.
everybody has the money for the budgets of big fours, but also the quality is occasionally lacking, no offense to anyone. And also every vendor, every SaaS platform, every product, they have their own angle, they have their own niche, they have their own problem that they're trying to solve, which is great, but it also creates gaps because you're kind of trying to put a band-aid on a very specific situation. We recognize, to us, kind of, we dealt a lot with incident response. I dealt with SOCs, I dealt with advisory services and all that stuff, but this particular thing came from the incident response, and kind of we've been watching how slow the response happens, how the transition from the escalation from the SOC onto actual incident response is lagging, the gaps between detection and response, where the products of today focus. And there are many reasons why they choose that, but it's lacking in its expertise. So we decided to take all of that and basically reinvent or redefine how incident response is done to make it fast, to make it very scalable, very speedy, without compromising on the quality factor and the human factor, which is very needed in
Hmm.
crisis modes, and to bridge and to bring the detection and the response much, much closer together, focusing on critical assets, not we're going to sell you a lot of licenses, cover everything. But we kind of said, okay, obviously Windows are Windows, but EDRs are doing a great job with Windows. So we're compatible with Windows, but we're focusing on Mac and Linux and Kubernetes, on Dockers and hypervisors, on containers, wherever the attack surface goes,
Hmm.
because this is where EDR is not doing, an EDR, XDR, kind of they're not covering everything, but also focus on business critical assets. So we're approaching the detection and the response through attackers' approach. And we're not focused on creating alerts. We think there's a huge alert fatigue, and whether you have an in-house security team or you're outsourcing to MSSP, creating a lot of alert notifications is not valuable when time counts. What's valuable is identifying that correct alert and getting to that fast. So we're focusing on highs, criticals, and what is relevant to an attack, identifying those where we are, to my knowledge, the only company that does detection, monitoring, and forensics with the same tool, with the same agent. So there's no additional deployment. We can be pre-deployed ahead of time, so we can monitor. We have customers that we monitor on an ongoing basis at all times, and then we pivot to incident response. We notify ourselves. We go into action. We have predefined rules. Of course, we also work with, people call us when when they first find out about us, when things are on
Mm.
fire, and then we go in. But also, yeah, our platform spins up within 2 minutes. All the infrastructure is in the cloud. Everything's done remotely. We operate globally. So it's very important for us to make it easy to take the burden off of the customers and to really be there for them when they have a lot of other things to take care of, or they're a little bit lost and dealing with some, incident paralysis. This is what we live, this is what we breathe. So for us, it's a lot easier to be, like, that's our life. It's not theoretical for us. It's not a playbook in a drawer that might or may not fit the scenario. We're, firefighters always in
Yeah.
action. Yeah. And just sorry, one more thing. We also kind of our core thing is defensive, but we also do offensive. And it's whilst it's very important for us to specialize and not to go overly broad, we do think that it's very important to understand the attacker mindset. So it's important for us that all our guys who do defensive also do offensive, so that they understand and learn both ways so that they can respond more efficiently.
Wonderful. So I want to kind of backtrack a little bit because for those that are watching, Lisa is an expert and thoroughly laid out everything that folks like me that are cyber professionals easily follow. But for those that are brand new to hearing a lot of these terms, I'm going to kind of step through, kind of like explain like I'm five. So one of the key things that she mentioned when it comes to incident response, timing is everything. Same thing with patch management, configuration management. Is the moment a patch is released, or a vulnerability is discovered, rather, there's a race condition. There's the kind of the race begins from when the vulnerability is discovered, a patch is made available, it's deployed, and back to secure, right? So in that race condition, there are going to be gaps because of the vulnerability is there. You can have indicators of compromise and all of these things that it could be exploited, right? Until a patch is made. And then even if a patch is made, let's say it's a Microsoft patch, Microsoft puts out a patch, but not every company can immediately deploy it because they have critical systems. They don't know how they're going to respond once they're patched. So there's still a delay in time. So you're just in vulnerability management. There's going to be these gaps of where an exploit can happen. So when it comes to instant response, having that monitoring, having the expertise to fine tune all of the alerts. So when she mentions alerts, alert fatigue is where you got everything firing up in your reports, and you don't have enough staff to look at every single thing. So you need to be able to filter it down to what is really critical compared to the context of our data, the company's assets, right? And so that's where the human expertise comes in. So folks like Lisa and our other team members in the company, they're experts into helping you filter it down to get through the noise to what really is credible threats against your business, your organization. So that's very important. Now, we hear a lot of the stuff about AI and these AI enabled solutions, and I'm kind of still on the fence because I do believe AI is the future because we still have to get it right. So just like with anything new, when we have a new technology, when we went from horses to cars, there was a big learning curve. We had to add safety features. We had to, cars got faster, more horsepower. We started doing, customizing cars, what color paint, well, tinted windows. So as emerging technology gets adopted, it's got to have a steep learning curve. And so I think no other case exemplifies this than in Microsoft's Azure. In the South America region, they had an outage for about 8 hours because they were testing their AI response system, and the AI actually flagged legitimate traffic as malicious, and they basically denial of service themselves, and that did not make the news as big as it should have. And Microsoft got caught live testing an AI feature in a region. They did not test it in North America, Europe, or Asia for good reason because they can't afford that kind of exposure in the news. But they did it in South America, which really, to me, is something that is disreputable. I'll leave that at that word with Microsoft because you should be able to replicate and do testing without live testing, without your customers knowing. So I hope South America filed all of the applicable lawsuits they could have in that, but it did not make the major news. With that being said, talking about AI, Obviously, in incident response, we want the easy button, Lisa. We want to have a system that can automatically stop the bad guys and automatically do all the heavy lifting for us. But like I just said, with any new technology, there's that steep learning curve before we could reach a point to where we could fully trust it. And to me, when I say I'm on the fence, I'm kind of, I'm still about the human element within the security chain, if you will, that you got to have people with that has discretion, that understands the business and the context that it operates in. And you can't always fully put that in a prompt. So with that being said, what is your perspectives and insights into the adoption of AI into this threat response landscape, if you will? And what do you see in the next 3 to 5 years of that?
Absolutely agree with you. I'm also, I guess we could say on the fence. And yeah, I think we are as a company, we are of the people who are really against the whole AI hype. On one hand, AI is not new. We all know that it's a transformation of the word automation. It's just a nicer word, but it does go through evolution. It does become much stronger and much more powerful. We couldn't have achieved what we've achieved as a company in a year and a half and completely bootstrapped without AI. Had we been doing this 5 years ago, we couldn't have gotten where we are today. But we recognize the power of AI, but we do not believe that it's at this point should be allowed to make decisions or act completely autonomously. And I know that there are many, many AI SOCs now. It's very trendy. Agentic AI playbooks, response. It's kind of becoming a thing. But I would strongly recommend for people to really look underneath exactly what stands behind those words when they're being sold that. The way we go about it, yes, we use AI, it's ours, it's in-house, but we are using it as a force multiplier. We are using it to automate every action that is repetitive, that is not new, that we know must take place in order to gather information, to process information, or in the SOC systems, like automations of very, very safe response buttons. To protect our customers, we also have ROEs with them about what systems are allowed to be touched without permissions and what are not. Nobody wants to touch, like what you said about Microsoft. We do not want to touch business critical systems without anyone's permission. What we do is that we have AI do the triage and do a lot of things, and obviously we feed it with information we know, but then we leave all the decision making is left to a human. And this is also, I think, when we started, we presented ourselves as a human-led company, which made people think, oh, you're a services company. And it was very much looked down upon
Hmm.
because platforms, AI, product. Yes, we have a platform. Yes, we use AI. Yes, thanks to AI, it allows us to be quick and scalable. We are not going to let it make any decisions because if it makes the wrong decision, I don't see how AI will take accountability today. I don't see AI standing there to answer for what it did wrong or both in a court of law or just, speaking to you and explaining to you what happened. So everything goes through investigators and only humans who are capable to make those decisions and those investigations, they make the decisions. It is it's hard to say what's going to happen in 3 to 5 years because we see, I think, especially in the past year, the past,
There's
few
this, yeah.
releases, there's a huge scale up. But I do think that in a way, probably we're going to see a shift in the tools and the solutions that are being offered to us. So just like in development, I think we're moving away from, AI writes a lot of code, but then you need to put in place certain, like you said, like safeguards and who checks it and who sanity tests it. So I think there's probably going to be a lot of additional like legal and all those things around governance, compliance, around AI, responsible AI and all the applications of AI. How does it, what happens when and if. So, but it's gaining more and more power and it's becoming smarter and smarter. But then I also kind of ask myself, and I don't have the answer to that yet, similar to how you said about, the horses and everything, but even like more recently, I don't know how old is who, but like there was dial-up internet, and then
Yeah.
there was LAN cable and became faster, and then it became wireless, and then those of us who witnessed it happen, our learning is through the stages of its evolution to explain it to ourselves, but to our children who were born into, the mobile phones and never seen not even a rotary phone, just
Yeah.
like a digital phone, or a Wi-Fi. I don't know, like they take it as is. They don't need to be explained how it came into being. So we probably apply and utilize AI and approach AI in a way that the next generation will not. So which will both make it a lot easier to implement. On the other hand, I don't know if they use critical thinking as much, so I don't know if they will be checking as much. So there's probably a whole new discipline that will need to happen around there so that the world doesn't become very narrow tunnel vision, which kind of scares me. So yeah, I think it's very interesting how that cross-generational thing will happen and how the way we perform whatever tasks or approach different disciplines will transform and evolve.
And one of the things I'll add to that when it comes to AI making decisions, just maybe a year ago, AI couldn't get fingers right, and when you did like image
Yes.
generation, and so they had
It's
extra
funny
fingers,
you
or
should
just it,
say
it would
that.
hallucinate, or just kind of go off the rails a little bit. And so if it does that, now it's gotten better. So now it can actually do hands pretty well now. And so as it gets more refined and gets better and better, but here's the bottom line: when it comes to threats, right? Attackers are always coming up with creative, ingenious ways, and like we got great platforms like MITRE Attack has a great series of tactics and techniques and so forth. And there's ways that we can look for these common things that we see most often. But when it starts coming to the next level of threats, the ones that AI is assisting hackers with, coming up with new and creative ways. When that input comes into an AI system and it doesn't know what to do based upon the knowledge base it's given at that point, what happens when it hallucinates? So when I mentioned with Microsoft Azure, it made a bad call. It took an action that prohibited legitimate business connections from happening. And that was a really bad thing. And so I think that you always have to have the human element because as human beings, we can make the call because whether we are empowered to do so or there's a stakeholder in that decision chain that could say, "Go do this, do that," but right now, I think most people can agree, no matter where you are in the AI, how well you trust it or believe in the capability, we all know that it can help us crunch through a sea of data and get us closer and filter us down to more actionable intelligence, if we can put it that way. And I think that's definitely a help. Like you mentioned the term force multiplier. As long as we're using it in that and there's a human in the decision and action chain, if you will, I think we're safe there. But I think to what point will we reach? Can we turn over the keys and the reins to an AI system? I don't know if will get there because I think, as you just said, the legal implication is something goes wrong and you cause legal damage where it's downstream or upstream liability. Someone has to be accountable, a board, a company, a business, organization, a legal entity. And until an AI becomes, by law, to my knowledge, is not able to be a business in and of itself. So until that happens, and we all know when I mentioned 3 to 5 years, laws on the books are usually 3 to 5 years behind the
Yeah.
technology. And that's kind of the thing that a lot of people are wrestling with, is because we're making such fast advancements, but the laws take so long to, one, educate congressmen, congresswomen, and people that make the laws. The lawmakers have to be educated. Because if they're not educated or they don't have the right advisors advising them, our laws will be either too loose and broad or they'll be too restrictive. And so we got to find that happy balance because business still needs to occur and happen. So just talking about laws and just within the threat and the, instant response and the work that you do with your company, what have you seen in the past few years has been a good or bad thing when it comes to running a business such as yours with the legal constraints? Because I think you're based in Japan, correct?
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
with different countries, there's different laws. Obviously, having to deal with international law can be a challenge, as well as privacy laws that are per region or per business sector. So, what are some of the challenges a business like yours faces when you're dealing with all kinds of global law?
Sure. So I think, yeah, I think it's a very basic challenge is that they are just so many countries, not just continents, so many countries have their own individual laws that unless you have a whole team of compliance lawyers, it's very difficult to keep track. So you could the simplest way is just to always pick the strictest way to go about everything, because then you'll probably be okay. Yeah, but I think through maybe trial and error and hopefully not a very bad error, you find out that if you had a chance to work with legal, and I had a lot of chances to work with a lot of legal or my team, that laws aren't always logical. Do not apply human
Yeah.
logic to law. Don't assume that because it's logical that the law will reflect it. And don't assume you know or think things. So it is always better to check, even if you think it's logical for things to be a certain way, because I've had to deal with, a lot of GDPR and to find out that even GDPR is very different between different countries, and there are countries with very stricter data privacy, and then Japan has its own thing, and Australia has its own thing, and it's endless. It's a lot, but yeah. So just trying to keep up with all of that, and yes, and we're going to add AI to that, and like you said, it doesn't have accountability, which reminds me, and it's probably embarrassing, but I get into arguments with AI about that, and I don't like when it starts apologizing to me and telling me I'm so sorry. I take full accountability, and it it gets me into these arguments with it when I say, well, you can't be accountable. You don't have a conscience, you don't have accountability, and there are no circumstances on you. And then we go into this whole thing. And I think it happened a couple of times to eventually when it said, like, you're right, I cannot take accountability. There are no repercussions. There are no. Can I help you write a complaint about me to my creators? About how I breached my terms. Like I caught it misinforming, disinforming deliberately. It admitted to it, and then I was like, "Well, you're in breach of your terms and conditions. What can we do about it?" So like, "Well, I can help you write, a complaint about me."
Mhm.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it needs to go to its creators who are developers. Yeah, so we're in that legal loop. Hmm.
So one of the other things, since we're going to wrap up on the AI part, but it's of note.
Yeah.
A few days ago, the Zscaler CEO, and probably through against his legal team's wishes now, but it's out there now. He said that the trillions of customer logs was used to train their wonderful AI, and this brings up concerns because of the zero trust strategies that they promote very heavily, and also data sovereignty when it comes to customers logs, if you will. And I get it. If you probably read deep into the report, and they've already probably put it out there on the internet that they anonymize the data to a degree that's acceptable with privacy regulations and consideration. But the damage is still there. Now people have to be concerned about data sovereignty and what you're feeding, how you're using data, and so forth. And I get it. We have to use some as close as reality that we can get to log files or to doing our analysis helps us get better at what we need to do to respond to attacks. But I think there's still a fine line between, what we should or shouldn't do with data sets, especially when it's customers' data. So from your perspective, what do you think that the direction that businesses need to go to with respect to like what Zscaler just put out? And they're big, big business. I mean, when they talk about trillions of log files, that's a lot of data that they fed into their AI model. But what do you think is the happy balance? Because, again, the more real the data is, the better we can get to protecting it. But there's that balance of privacy versus security. And so, what is your perspectives when it comes to like news stories like that from Zscaler? And we'll probably hear a lot more in the near future.
I think it's a really tricky question. And in a way, yes, we're kind of, we're we've taken it to a whole new level with the AI and training models, but in a way, as you said, it's not really new because every company that has a platform that has some kind of model trains that model, and the more customer share you have, the more data you can feed into it, the more you can reflect back to those same customers, and the more, be it threat repository, wherever it may be, the more you know, the better you can represent, the more you can show them how they're doing against others, how you protect them, etc. So when done well and right, and what is well and right is a gray area, it is for their benefit at the
Mm,
end of the day, because the more data we have about what we're dealing with, the better we can help.
yes.
And yeah, and then it's kind of like it's a bit of a catch-22 because on one hand, we want to protect the privacy, we want to protect every customer. Nobody wants to be exposed, nobody wants to know what's happened to them, yet everybody wants to know what happened to everybody else
Yeah.
so that they can protect themselves. Yeah, and I kind of same clauses in contracts, except now they use somewhat newer words, but I do think that companies should be allowed to do research on data, but be very, very careful about disclosure of that data unless it's, with distinct permission.
Yes.
So you got to be very careful about how you run your house in-house.
Yes.
And yeah.
And the folks, just remember those terms and conditions when you sign up for a service, any kind of thing that's delivered to you, or you're opting into a cloud service. There's those terms and conditions that you should read because by clicking OK, by clicking next, continue, install, that's opt-in consent. And in the court of law, you're agreeing to those terms and conditions, whether you read them or not, or knew them or not. That is still opt-in consent. Just like Google searches, a lot of folks don't understand that if you type something into a Google search, all of that's collected. Now, Google does have a good privacy policy and they do anonymize the data and retain it per legal regulations. But even if you type something into any web search browser, it collects that. Even if you backspace it, you didn't hit enter, anything you type into that browser is logged and recorded. So, folks, just remember by typing something in a browser, that's technically opt in consent. So, moving on, this is one of my favorite questions that I love to ask all my guests. And so, Lisa, all of us started at zero. You're a level 99, a cybersecurity expert, award-winning expert speaker, founder, CEO. You got all these hats and titles and accolades. But at one point, you started at level zero, level one, step one. What is your day one story? When I say day one, the day that you decided that, hey, I want to work in IT cyber. And if there's a story around that, do you mind sharing it with us?
It 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 was offered to me. Sort of, I didn't decide it, but I was very happy that the opportunity came. I do have some military intelligence background. It wasn't in cyber, it was intelligence. Well, because cyber was information. There was some cyber already, but yeah. And I was always very much attracted to all those like detective stories and all of that. So it was very interesting for me. I really liked what I did in the military, like detective stories, spy stories, and all of those things. And then I left that, went to do what I went to do with startups. And then I was offered the job in cyber from a post-sale customer point of view. What I was doing, I was doing customer success and the professional services, and I had the decision of, okay, am I going, leaving all my experience behind, going into a brand new industry, but at the same time, it's an industry that I'm excited about. It's an industry that is relevant because yes, we're all, whoever is working in private companies that are for profit, yes, they're all there for profit and it's jobs. But at the end of the day, it would be nice to know that what I'm doing isn't just making money, but also helps someone, is also a relevant thing, something that will do some good, and bring some good. So it was a little bit scary, but it was kind of like, this is what I wanted. This is an opportunity, so I should absolutely take it. come what may. Obviously, I really wanted to catch up on knowing cyber. If you asked me, I would still tell you that I know nothing. But yeah, it was more than 10 years ago, but it was kind of I was just advising the company I went to work for. I was just advising them on how to do go to market in Japan. It was, a friendly conversation, and I was really excited about what they were building and about what they were going to do. And I kind of asked, like, I was like, wow, like you got everything lined up and it's right and it's so amazing. When are you going to start hiring for this? Because it's so cool. And the CEO was sat in front of me. He was like, I am now you. And I was like, all right. Yeah, it did take me 6 months to say yes because I had a lot of things to consider. But yeah, it was kind of like a moment. And a lot of things happened since. A lot of time has gone by. There were a lot of difficult times too, but it brought us here. So
Mhm.
that's all that matters.
Well,
Yeah.
what I would like folks to really pay attention to in her story is, even though this opportunity, was offered to her to go into cyber, her background was a different type of intelligence, right? And a different career field, right? And so one of the things that the beauty of cyber is no matter where your experience is, what industry you're coming from, or what background you have, it's all applicable. You could bring that into cyber because all those different insights and perspectives and that knowledge you have will benefit you in cyber at one point or another in your career. It's going to come back and benefit you. And so again, it's a great story that testifies to the fact that you don't have to always been IT cyber. You could say, hey, I'm ready for a change. Whether you make a lateral in, you jump in the pool. I always tell people once you decide to go all in, it's the pool is warm. We need everybody in it. We need all the perspectives, all the experiences, because that's how we're stronger together. Um, with that being said, you've had a great career to this point. Again, you have so many more miles to go. But along your journey so far, has there been mentors, leaders, managers, coworkers, colleagues that have inspired you or had a positive impact upon your professional journey so far? And this more of this question is this is more to pay homage to those that have had a positive impact on you. So, are there any names that you want to mention of again colleagues, bosses, managers, leaders, people that have motivated and inspired you?
It's hard to name. I know that some people, are like my commander in the army or like my um there are many people that I am very, very grateful for, and some of those people have given me valuable positive experiences and some were negative, and we grow from negative too.
Yes.
And they teach you who you want to be or how you want to be, whether it's by repeating something they've done or by never repeating something they've done. But I think it's not only it's not only the people above you, or I think a lot of the people who worked for me, or I hired or I interviewed, like I think every encounter there is something there. There is something to
Hmm.
learn there, and it goes like the sort of. I look at an eye level at everybody. I can learn something from everybody, and it's very good when people remind you sometimes where you need to be, or just show you something. And so I think so many people I met along the way, whether they were on my team or they were managers, peers, just somebody you ranted with.
Hmm.
Yeah, there are so many lessons there. I would say that managers that are not going to throw you under the bus is a very valuable thing. People who maybe are not going to do everything right and not give you the world, but you will know that they're not going to lose it and are just going to in the moments when it matters will be like, I'm here, let's decide what we're going to do. This is hugely valuable. I've had both, that and the opposite of that, so I'm very grateful for people who understand that. You don't start screaming and leave people to figure it out on your own, but you
Yeah.
do. And I try to do the same, that like, no, work together in the mistakes. Like they get the credit when things are good. When bad things happen, I'm there. And yeah, so I think that's important. But there's just so many people, and I am grateful to. I think usually the people above us get the credit. So I want to give credit to the people who were my employees or the managers under me, their employees,
Mhm.
who kind of showed me that full faith and chose to follow me and said, wherever you go, we want to go with you. Because I think this was that moment where you see that people believe in you, and so you must be doing something right, and they put their trust in you. And I'm not like, it's not an attempt to do a humble brag, but I'm massively grateful to them because they're the ones who keep me on my toes, and I'm responsible for them to make things good for them. So I'm very grateful for them to both giving me the trust, but also forcing me to be accountable in return.
I like that. So this is where I like to go to a speed round of questions. It's completely for fun. As there's, there's no right or wrong answers. This is what I call my speed round. It's just for levity because we talked a lot of cyber tech and AI. Now it's just for some fun. So if you humor me, I'm going to ask a couple rapid fire questions. Whatever answer pops first in your head. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Cake or pie?
Cake.
What kind of cake?
Chocolate,
Chocolate.
but
Okay.
like
All
hot
right.
chocolate.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
No.
Okay. This one's going to
I'm
split
big on
every room.
sandwiches.
Okay. So this next question is going to split every room of IT people. So Star Wars or Star Trek?
Watched a little bit of both.
Okay. If
Enjoyed
you had to
both.
pick, okay, so if a little bit of both, if you had to pick a favorite character from each one, what is your favorite Star Wars and favorite Star Trek character?
Oh no, please don't do that. I don't remember now. So when we were in Vegas, DEF CON coincided with Star Trek convention. So
Hmm.
that was fun, but I did watch the Star Wars movie. So yeah, I'm the wrong person to ask that.
Okay, I'm going to throw in just a special question just for you since you just brought it up, and this is a tough one. DEF CON or Black Hat?
Jesus. You're like breaking political
I
alliances here
know
because they just
that's
changed,
a tough
they
one.
broke ownership, they changed ownership and stuff. Oh God. Well, I was gonna do a trick answer and say B-sides, but I'm not gonna do that. Ah, Jesus. Well, DEFCON would not exist without Black Hat.
Okay. So
I think
I'm going
DEF
to
CON
throw a
is
little bit
better.
in there, folks.
DEF CON is better. I'm gonna go with DEF CON,
Okay.
but I do have to caveat that there's a huge like anti-big conference movement that I'm seeing on social media over the past year, anti-InfoSec, anti-Black Hat, anti-RSA. And everyone is saying how it's the side events that are great, it's the side events there. But the thing is, you wouldn't be in town if it wasn't for the main event. So the side events wouldn't exist without them. So I feel like we should, we should not forget the RSAs and the black
Yeah.
hats because the good stuff wouldn't exist without them.
I will just, my opinion is all the conferences have merit and value of bringing people together to do that knowledge
Yeah.
exchange, to get informed, to gain more insight and perspective. We need them all. But when it comes to choice, I'll answer this too. So since I put you on the spot, I'll answer this too. Folks, at the end of the day, bottom line up front, DEF CON is still cash at the door. So you can't get a receipt. You can't get reimbursed by your company or organization easily without a receipt. Black Hat gives you that option to where you can, have your government agency or business easily pay for that because of the way they do their billing. So both have their different merits and value. But if you want the bleeding edge, really cool workshops, labs, and in-person interactions, you're going to have more of that at DEF CON than you will at any other event. But bottom line is if you need reimbursement quickly and easily through your company, Black Hat is there for you. They also have some cool stuff and some labs and workshops.
And they
But
have
at the
cool
end of the day,
trainings.
huh?
They have cool trainings.
Yeah, they
The
both have
trainings that
cool
they do are
training.
pretty good. Yeah.
So, and then my last question here is, and this is a tough one. What has been your most favorite book of all time, and what was the last book you read?
I'm going to tell you the last book I read because I don't know what's my favorite book of all time. So the last book I read is actually still here
Uh-oh.
because it happens to be cyber. So I was given this.
Oh, Cult of the
It's
Dead
The
Cow.
Cult of the Dead Cow. And I really, not just because it's cyber, but well, obviously he's a journalist, Joseph, and so like he's perfected his style of writing, but like it reads as a novel. and
Hmm.
it's written beautifully. I used to read a lot. I used to read a lot of classics and all the like Hemingway and novels, all the big stuff. So I appreciate a good a good writing style that's easy to read. What I've been reading most in the past years is I guess more like SOPs and hundreds of pages of procedures.
Technical
So I
documents,
can't
yeah.
say that they're my favorite, but that's my reading materials in the past years. But I also I do try to challenge myself when I can to read to the extent of the languages that I do know to read things in its original language.
Hmm.
So like whenever I travel or when I have a chance, I do try to pick up a book not in one of the languages I speak all the time, so I don't forget or
Yeah.
just enjoy a different style. Yeah.
Awesome. So, being a very busy, executive, speaker, and all the other hats you wear in your professional life, a lot of us professionals, we try to carve out time for whether it's for personal projects, for charities, nonprofits, volunteer work, for causes that are trying to do good in the world, things that might be mean something to us near and dear to our hearts. So, are there any of these type of projects that you would like to what I call shine a light on? Whether it's whether you contribute of your time, energy, or finances towards these causes, but that you would just like to acknowledge and just say, hey, this is an organization that is doing this in the world. And then if you share the links with me to their socials or websites, I'll put them in the description below.
I will send you a link. Yeah. So I think it kind of I'm not doing too much that is organized or, structured, but I do, hopefully try to have a good impact on some people. I think a because my company's in its second year, so obviously the majority of my time goes towards that and everything is surrounding that. But I have been in this for a while, and back to when you were mentioning about, if you want a career in cyber, don't overlook that you're coming from a different field. Like it has been sort of a passion of mine to try to give the right opportunities to people who are usually overlooked. And I'm not necessarily, the structural, oh, this, this audience belongs in a minority group, although obviously the whole women's awards and everything, this is a very real thing, but there's a lot more. I think there's a certain character of people that is attracted and can be very, very good for jobs in cyber, but in their mind, it's maybe a hobby. They don't think people will take them seriously because they work in something else. So kind of to give people the confidence to pursue this professionally and believe that their side project, side hobby can actually be a passion and something that they do all the time. To it's to hire people from the wrong backgrounds is my specialty.
Mhm.
And yeah, yeah, I think once you recognize that somebody's got that it thing and the passion for it, then yeah, about giving them a chance. The one more thing that kind of like, because it was very recent and was in Black Hat, but it's also like somebody we met back in the spring. Obviously there's a lot of talk and a lot of conversation about neurodivergency and inclusion. And sometimes it gets to a point of wokeness that frankly bothers me and a little too much. But a lot of us in this industry are introverts. A lot of us are not very comfortable in large audiences or whatever it may be, and it doesn't make those people less good at and maybe even better at their job. They're very suitable. A lot of the people in cyber are probably you know um have some neurotypical divergency.
Yeah.
So this is just, I have one next to me, it just happens to be here. Let me see if this is the one. We just there back in April, we by accident ran into a psychologist who works with people in cyber. Her name is Sarah Rabinovich, and she is based out of LA. And before Blackhead, she was doing these like cybercom toolkits, and we partnered with her to do a few. And it's basically it's very cute. I'll give a link to her. I do
Okay.
encourage if organizations want to bring her to speak to their employees or to partner with her to distribute more of these. These are just like very cool little kits for that she gives away at conferences that help, people if they, need something for whatever sensory overload or whatever it may be. It also has a QR code with a link to tips about how to overcome certain things that come with that. So I think what she's doing is great and it can help a lot of people. So I will
Yeah,
also
definitely
give
give
a
me the
link to
website links
that.
for that, and we'll put it in the description.
Yeah.
If someone's watching right now, right, and they're just sitting here going, "Okay, I've watched this episode to this point, but I can never be Lisa. I can never be Jim. I don't think I have what it takes to do cyber. I hear about it that there's jobs. My industry, maybe their industry is starting to shrink down, and they're trying to look for where to take their life and career next." What would you say to those folks that, at one point you mentioned earlier, I think that you kind of felt a little bit, we all feel that imposter syndrome at some point in our careers, or we feel like we don't have the confidence or so forth. So for the person that's not sure about whether cyber is right for them or if they should even take that first step, what would be something that you would say to that person right now if they're listening?
If they're passionate about it, they should definitely give it a try. I think imposter syndrome, as much as it makes you question yourself, and it's very important because if we lose it entirely, we just become very condescending and not great people overall. So to a certain degree, it's always good to question because it helps us make ourselves better and remind ourselves that we don't know everything. Everybody starts from something. I'm sure you have other skills that, like you said in the beginning, they can be transferable, they can be good. I once had a person who worked in sales who wanted to become an analyst, and she thought that her sales experience would be counted against her. And I was trying to explain to her that, on the contrary, most of the people who work in the SOC actually they don't know how to speak to customers, and the fact that she has a sales background, she has the ability to speak to other people to explain to them or
Really good point.
and yeah, so there can be so many things that people usually and it upsets me when I see even people who come from IT experience but not directly cyber that are told, well, you've never worked in cyber, you're just an IT person, and so you can't. So on the contrary, that person probably knows and understands potential customers' environments and practical use cases better than a person who only ever did cyber and came from a very narrow field of knowledge. So do not discredit the skills that you potentially might have. And if you truly are passionate about it, if you think it's just a job, then it's probably not for you. But because cyber is not a 9 to 5 thing. But if you're passionate about this, then definitely give it a try. And maybe ask maybe ask one of the AIs of your choice to reinterpret your skills and to see how they may be
I like that.
transferable because yeah, we all sometimes need some help rewriting our CVs and read it back to ourselves to see what we might be good at.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's great advice. So, Lisa, what is next? What is next in your next 6 months, a year? Are you going to write a book? Are you got more speaking events lined up? What is next in the career of Lisa?
Hopefully many, many more customers for Threatlight. That
Okay.
would be that would be awesome. Yeah, please, like we're here to help. Please reach out to us. But yeah, so next week, I don't know when this is being broadcast, but in a week from now, next week, we actually have a proper booth for the first time at Cybertech Tokyo. Yeah, we've had, we attend a lot of conference and we had like a startup table once or twice, but we're having a proper booth. And both my co-founder Tim is speaking, and I'm going to moderate a panel. about AI agents. Even though I'm so not the person about AI, yet somehow this whole episode circulated around it. I guess it's part of our lives now. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing next. But after that, hopefully back to kind of dive deep into work and expand, our customer base more. We were focused on the US. We have a lot more to do in the US, but recently we kind of also branched out more into Europe and Japan. Growing the teams. It's those natural milestones of growing the company, but they are very, very exciting because we're paving our own journey. We're creating everything with our own hands. So it's very exciting, and hopefully we'll have more and more companies that can enjoy that.
Okay. Well, now we're at the end of the podcast, and so I give all my guests the final word. So whatever you like to talk about, it could be cyber, it could be about Threatlight, it could be about privacy, incident response, threat management, whatever you want to talk about, the floor is yours.
God. Um, Now you caught me off guard. I was so focused on knowing which book I read. Um, I don't know. Yeah, we talked a lot about cyber, about AI, about everything. Let's do something more inspirational. Yeah, depending on who's watching, I think a lot of the times people like to ask, what's your advice, and what would you say to your younger self? And it always catches me off guard. And I remember that I think a few times I was saying that I would give, I would say dare more, dare, dare, dare. And then I was kind of like thinking about this with myself, and I thought, like dare is step two, because you need to know what to dare. You need to give yourself that something to dare to do. So you have to have that fear of something that you're not yet trying. So I think if we go back to all the maybe the people who think they don't have what it takes or whatever it may be, I think step one would be allow yourself to dream. Dreams, when we kind of think through them and form, they become basically that milestone that we're paving the path to and walking towards, and then we can dare. But for let's go back to step one, allow yourself to have that dream, whatever it may be, so that then you can pursue it. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well spoken. Lisa Landau, award-winning cybersecurity expert, professional, founder and CEO of Threatlight, and so many more things to come in a career. Her LinkedIn profile link is going to be in the description below. Follow her. She's got a tremendous career. She has tremendous things she shares on her LinkedIn, and all the other links she's going to give me. She's going to give me the link to the book, as well as everything else we talked about will be in the description below. And so thanks for watching. And Lisa, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure. Thank
Awesome.
you.